What we are going to see is a combination vehicle, very unique. This is the Victoria version. This is a carriage that's an antique restoration of the Charles S. Caffrey Company from Camden, New Jersey, and it's a numbered piece. As we look at it here with the bonnet up, we see a vehicle about 3/4 size. That means 15 hand horses. It's livery driven, servant driven, and the bonnet is up in this style of presentation. As we circle, we see a very curvy style of vehicle, less abrupt than the European, more Americanized. The ironwork and the woodwork is very round, very fancy, very feminine in nature. The pinstriping is broad. Here you see the wheel cover, and it has Philadelphia on there, and that's because the Caffrey Company marketed in Philadelphia and also New York. So this carriage on manufacture was sent to Philadelphia to be marketed at their outlet there. This is a Georgia 4th style dash, carpeted upholstery, your candle lamps, common to this era with a square lens, leather covered whip holder with a holly whip, and this is your livery seat. So your livery boots with the russet cuffs, black top hat, black livery coat, brass buttons, white breeches, all necessary uniform for a livery servant that would be driving this vehicle. In your passenger department, you see buttoned and tufted upholstery, a soft velvet, woman's hat, man's top hat, your umbrella for inclement weather, and carpeted floor, and your Victoria step. That's your Victoria look. And here we see it with the bonnet down, which would be used on nice days, or if you show this vehicle, if you would use it down to show inside. And here again we see a splinter bar arrangement, so we know this has a pole and can be hitched to a pair. Also very curvy ironwork, and this was all hand done work, pounded out on a forge with a hammer and a hot fire, and the ornate ironwork made this company very famous. Here's your livery footboard with your customary linoleum covering, again your livery clothes. The livery seat here is felt, but it might be black leather for a servant seat, and candle lamps. Again, a look at your Georgia 4 style dash, big patent leather dash, carpeting on the floor. Appropriate and customary turnout items would be top hat, gloves, aprons. There's some flowers here. There are other turnout appointments that would be appropriate to the carriage. This is a very formal carriage. Again, your Victoria step, your curvy wood panels, the patent leather fenders on the rear wheels, your bonnet down, it has the brass trim. The bonnet itself would be covered in, this is covered in genuine leather. And on the back you see again a linoleum floor. The bonnet comes close to the dickey seat. If the servant were sitting on the back, he would sit on this seat. So the livery servant could ride on the front or the back if there are two livery servants. And there's the step to get in. Again, your curved wood panels, which make this vehicle particularly attractive. There's your square lens lamps, candle lit lamps, be common to a carriage of this size. Your front livery porch with your livery boots, your Victoria step. This was made famous by Queen Victoria. This carriage was originally called a Milburn carriage. Queen Victoria liked it and it took that name. Here's your pole crab for driving pairs. And again, this carriage can be driven singly too, so these would be your shafts. Take the splitter bar off, put these on, drive single. And this is the toolbox under your seat. You can see your button tufted upholstery here and your pleated front panel. The toolbox was painted bright yellow so that you could see your tools at night with just a candle or a lantern lamp. And it's appropriate that toolboxes inside be painted yellow for that reason. Otherwise, it's difficult to find your tools at night, and you can see the outline of the wheel wrench here. It's easy to distinguish against the yellow background. That's appropriate for a toolbox to be painted yellow inside. Again, with the toolbox here, you can see the pleated paneling and the buttoned and tufted upholstery. Now when you put your spares in this, there's your ADS spares kit required by ADS, quarter sheet, spare halter and lead. Your spares would be dependent upon how you're hitched. Single spares are different from pair spares, so whichever way you hitch, you would have to have spares that are appropriate for that. The Caffrey Company of Camden, that was their home base. They had outlets in other places. There's your Holly Whip and other appointments that would commonly go with this carriage. These would be in the passenger area of the Victoria. So that's your Victoria with the bonnet up and livery driven. Then comes a conversion, and this is sort of amazing. You take this Victoria and you can change it into a George IV Ladies Park Phaeton by removing the livery seat from the front. And by removing this seat, you change the whole style of the carriage. It goes from livery driven to passenger driven, and a George IV is appropriately driven as a ladies park carriage. So this would be ladies driven. Ladies were always, of course, attended by a servant, so the servant would sit on the dickey seat in the back, and he would attend the lady driver. The servant that sits on the dickey seat with a lady driving would be a house servant, and he of course would be clothed slightly differently than a barn servant, but a barn servant never attended a woman. This is your back dickey seat with the livery coat, black top hat, white breeches, russet cuff boots. And you can see here with the bonnet down, the big dash in front, the curviness of the George IV was of great value and was a revered piece for a lady to drive. A very classy piece. Here's the front with the fifth wheel, the lamps on the corners, and again you can see the ornate steel work. This is all hand done on a forge. And the wheels set well out in front. The woman drives from the passenger seat and with the reins over the dash. There's your servant seat in the back. He can look over the bonnet and attend to the lady. Again, your linoleum flooring on your servant seats, footboard is appropriate. There's an umbrella with a lady's calling card. Those are appropriate for a lady's piece. Candle lamps. There's a clock on the dash clock on the footboard. And an appointment might be a case with wine and glasses, a package of cheese and crackers, rain gloves tucked neatly under the seat in case of rain so your hands don't slip on wet rains, and a very attractive turnout of George IV for a lady. So this is a rare and unique post-Civil War antique cob-sized carriage that converts from what you see here as a Victoria to what you see here that is a George IV Ladies Park Phaeton. A very attractive piece, which is made even more attractive when hitched to a nice pair of horses and standing in the winter circle. Brought to you by Jim DVD Ranch, Sanger, Texas.